One of the most painful feelings in life is being misunderstood, especially when your intentions are pure. You try to explain yourself, but people still judge you incorrectly. They call you distant when you're protecting your peace, prideful when you're setting boundaries, different when you're growing, too intense when you're spiritually awakening. And honestly, after enough misunderstanding, many people begin shrinking themselves just to feel accepted. That pain is real because humans naturally crave belonging. We want to feel seen, understood, accepted. But John 15:18 says something difficult. If the world hates you, keep in mind that it hated me first. Think about that. Even Jesus was misunderstood. The most loving, truthful, pure person to ever live was still rejected by many people. That changes everything, because now misunderstanding is not always proof you are doing something wrong. Sometimes it is evidence that your spirit no longer aligns with certain environments. Stay with me, because today I'm going to show you why chosen people are often misunderstood. And the final reason explains why misunderstanding may actually be protecting your purpose. Number 1, chosen people often think differently from the crowd. This is usually the first reason. You notice things others ignore. Feel conviction where others feel comfort. Question patterns people blindly follow. And honestly, that difference makes people uncomfortable sometimes, because humans naturally trust familiarity. Anyone who challenges the normal way of thinking often gets misunderstood first. Noah looked foolish before the rain came. David looked unqualified before defeating Goliath. Jeremiah sounded negative before his warnings became reality. Why? Because truth often sounds strange before people are ready to receive it. Romans 12:2 says, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world." Notice that carefully. Chosen people are rarely called to conform fully. And honestly, the moment you stop thinking exactly like everyone around you, misunderstanding increases. People often criticize what they cannot fully understand. That's why spiritually awakened people frequently feel isolated, not because they hate others, because their perspective changed. And once your eyes open spiritually, certain conversations, habits, and environments stop feeling normal internally. That difference creates tension, but misunderstanding goes deeper than different thinking. Number 2, chosen people often outgrow environments quietly. This part hurts deeply, because growth changes compatibility. The places you once fit comfortably start feeling draining. The friendships built around old habits begin fading. Conversations lose depth. Your spirit starts craving peace more than noise. And honestly, people notice the change before they understand it. Suddenly they say things like, "You've changed. You act different now. You think you're better than us." But here's what most people miss. Growth always looks strange to people committed to staying the same. 2 Corinthians 5:17 says, "If anyone is in Christ, they are a new creation." New creation, that means transformation changes identity. And honestly, some relationships only worked because you stayed emotionally small. The moment you started healing, setting boundaries, or growing spiritually, the relationship became uncomfortable. Why? Because your growth disrupted familiar patterns. That's painful. Because chosen people often lose connection with environments tied to old versions of themselves before new alignment fully appears. That in-between stage feels lonely, but it's also part of transformation. But now we reach something even deeper. Number 3, chosen people carry convictions others may not understand. This is one of the hardest realities. When God starts shaping someone deeply, their spirit becomes more sensitive. Certain compromises feel heavier. Certain environments feel wrong. Certain conversations drain them internally. And honestly, people who don't share that conviction may misunderstand it completely. They call it too serious, too sensitive, too spiritual, but conviction is not weakness, it's discernment. John 16:13 says, "When the Spirit of truth comes, He will guide you into all truth." Truth changes appetite. And honestly, chosen people often feel internally uncomfortable in places where compromise became normalized. Not because they think they're perfect, because their spirit is changing. That's why some people withdraw from environments they once loved, not out of arrogance, out of alignment. But here's what most people miss. Conviction separates before purpose becomes visible. God often protects chosen people internally before using them externally. And that process can make them look strange to people who only understand surface-level living. But misunderstanding becomes even more painful here. Number 4, chosen people are often judged based on what others project onto them. This happens constantly. People see your boundaries and call you cold, see your peace and call you distant, see your discipline and call you prideful. Why? Because people often interpret others through their own wounds, insecurities, and assumptions. Jesus healed people and was still accused falsely. Joseph stayed faithful and was still betrayed. David served Saul loyally and was still hunted. That matters deeply, because being misunderstood does not automatically mean you are wrong. Sometimes people project their discomfort onto you because your growth exposes areas they avoid confronting in themselves. John 1:5 says, "The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it." Light naturally exposes, and honestly, people often react strongly when someone begins walking in clarity, truth, or transformation. Not because you attacked them, because your life silently confronts what they refuse to face internally. That's difficult, because chosen people frequently carry pain from being judged unfairly. And after enough misunderstanding, many begin shrinking themselves emotionally to avoid conflict. But hiding your growth to keep others comfortable will eventually suffocate your purpose. That's dangerous. But now we reach one of the deepest reasons chosen people are misunderstood. Number 5. Chosen people are often isolated during preparation seasons. This is painful but necessary, because God frequently develops people privately before using them publicly. Moses spent years in the wilderness. David spent years hidden before becoming king. Paul spent years in preparation after his conversion. And honestly, those seasons looked confusing from the outside. People often misunderstand hidden seasons because they cannot see what God is building internally. Why the distance? Why the silence? Why the separation? Because preparation usually happens privately. And honestly, some of the loneliness you feel right now may not be rejection. It may be preparation. James 1:4 says, "Let perseverance finish its work." Finish its work. That means certain seasons are shaping character, wisdom, and dependence on God before visibility arrives. And honestly, chosen people often feel isolated because God is teaching them to depend on Him before depending on public approval. That process feels lonely, but it creates depth. And depth matters more than visibility. But now we reach another difficult truth. Number 6. Chosen people threaten systems built on superficiality. This is important, because chosen people often disrupt environments without even trying. Their peace exposes chaos. Their discipline exposes excuses. Their authenticity exposes performance. And honestly, systems built on shallow values often reject people carrying deeper truth. Jesus challenged religious hypocrisy. The prophets challenged corruption. The disciples challenged cultural norms. Truth creates resistance. That's why spiritually awakened people are often criticized. Not because they are perfect, because their life no longer comfortably fits inside certain unhealthy systems. And here's what most people miss. Chosen people often feel exhausted because they spend years trying to explain themselves to environments committed to misunderstanding them. But not every misunderstanding requires defense. Even Jesus remained silent before certain accusations. That's wisdom, because some people are not seeking understanding. They are protecting their own comfort. And honestly, you will exhaust yourself trying to gain approval from people committed to misunderstanding your growth. But now we reach the deepest reason of all. And this changes everything. Number 7. Misunderstanding often protects chosen people from becoming addicted to human approval. This is powerful, because if everyone understood you constantly, praised you constantly, and approved of you constantly, you might start depending on people more than God. So sometimes misunderstanding creates separation from public validation, not to destroy you, to deepen you. Galatians 1:10 says, "Am I now trying to win the approval of human beings or of God?" That question matters deeply, because chosen people eventually reach a crossroads. Will you stay faithful to God, even when others misunderstand your journey? That's maturity. And honestly, many people abandon growth because they fear misunderstanding more than spiritual compromise. But purpose often requires standing alone temporarily. Noah built while people mocked him. David obeyed before people recognized him. Jesus spoke truth while crowds rejected him. Chosen people are rarely understood fully during the process, because transformation often looks strange before purpose becomes visible. And hear this carefully. Not everyone will understand your boundaries, your healing, your growth, your spiritual hunger. That's okay. Your assignment is not to make everyone comfortable. Your assignment is to remain faithful to who God is calling you to become. So let's go back to John 15:18. If the world hates you, remember it hated me first. Even Jesus was misunderstood. That means misunderstanding is not proof you failed. Sometimes it's proof you stopped conforming. And honestly, some of you have spent years feeling guilty for changing, for protecting your peace, for outgrowing environments, for becoming spiritually awake. But growth always creates separation somewhere. Not because you hate people, because transformation changes alignment. And maybe the loneliness, the criticism, and the misunderstanding are not signs you're losing yourself. Maybe they are signs you're finally becoming who God created you to be. If this message spoke to you, if you felt misunderstood during your growth season, type different in the comments. Not because you think you're better than others, but because you trust God even when the journey feels lonely. And remember this, Chosen people are often misunderstood because not everyone can recognize purpose while it's still being prepared.